In today's video, the exact diet that you need to get lean and cut. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paul Rella from ProPhysique.com, and today I got a question for my Instagram direct message, so go right here, guys. Now, when it comes to losing body fat, we want to go from looking like this to looking like this, right? The goal is to lose the body fat, keep the muscle. That's what I do. I'm an expert. In fact, I have an entire company of experts. So I want to address the question, and then we're going to get into it. So my man says, I'm stuck at my current weight for a while. Can you help with a diet plan? I want to get lean and cut. Now, although this might seem like a very basic question and I could address it and say, yeah, here's your meal plan, there's a couple things I like to do first. First of all, we have a calculator that's going to tell you about where your calories should be. You go to prophysiquemacros.com, plug in a bunch of information. That's going to break down some calories for you. Now, I understand that for a lot of people, that can be intimidating. I don't really want to handle calories. I don't really want to worry about macros. I want to be told what to do. If you want to be told what to do, well, hell, I'm happy to help you do that too. That's what I do. I'm a coach, and if you would like a consultation with myself or one of the coaches for ProPhysique, there's no cost associated with that. If you're looking for coaching, you can simply go to our website, click a few buttons, and you'll be in touch with one of our coaches that can discuss things with you, and we can help you learn how to understand macros, set up a diet plan. I've also got another great option, which is our Transformation Challenge, which is going to be kicking off the summer Sculpt. It's coming up here soon. That includes dozens of meal plans and training plans. But really what I want to do is empower you guys to be successful, okay? While as much as I love coaching, there's a very specific target that we have for coaches. And that is for people that are really have a goal in mind that they want to get to, a deadline. So let's talk a little bit about just the mindset of where you're at wanting a diet plan and how to get there. Why don't diet plans work? Why isn't the diet that you're on working? It really comes down to accountability. And this is something that I ended up doing for years, was spinning my wheels. I ate healthy, I ate high protein, I did some cardio, I lifted some weights, but I never actually looked the way I wanted to look. It wasn't until I saw some competitive natural bodybuilders, people like Brian Whitaker, people like Doug Miller, people like Lane Norton. And I really looked out at these people and thought, wow, while these physiques are crazy impressive, they also seemed obtainable, right? They seemed realistic. And for me, I was like, what's the difference between where I'm at and where they're at, right? Now, we all have unique kind of genetic things that make us different. So we're never going to look exactly like the person we want to look like. However, what I found was that through the methods that I was taught by my first coach, I was able to obtain a physique that was worthy of standing on the pro bodybuilding stage next to those guys that I mentioned. And while their physiques obviously stand out, I found that the missing piece of the formula for me was actually being accountable. And I think what you have to ask yourself is, you want to look lean, but do you really want to? Do you want to go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week? Do you want to track your diet? Do you want to plan your meals ahead? Do you want to do the cardio or be active enough to get where you got to go? Because that's really what separates people. One of the most common questions or most common comments I get from people is, you know, I really want to look like a competitor, but I don't want to compete. And whenever I hear that, it makes me laugh, because the reason that nobody looks like a competitor except a competitor is because that's what drives us when we're competing for these trophies. That's what drives us, that deadline, that date, that knowing we're going to be getting on stage, comparing our best to somebody else's best. It's what drives us when those tough days come, right? So it's not necessarily that there is a perfect diet, a perfect cardio plan, a perfect workout plan. It's that you take approaches that really allow you to be the best. Now, the first step for you is going to be to understand where your nutrition is at currently, okay? And this was very eye-opening for me. My first coach said, hey, I want you to track your diet for a few days, even for a full week. And it took me a few days to get the hang of that. I didn't know how to track the food that I was eating. I wasn't even familiar with looking at nutrition labels, with punching in nutrition information. And so after a couple days, I started to realize, like, wow, I have no idea where my protein, where my carb, where my fats are, because I'm just kind of taking guesses at what I was eating. This type of personal accountability, while it was stressful initially, what it did was it freed me up to make better decisions in the future and work towards my goal. No longer did I have to worry or wonder if I was eating the right things. I actually knew. I actually knew how to adjust my diet. I knew how to kind of swap things out so that I could eat the same foods, but use the lower calorie versions, right? Instead of just regular ground beef, I would eat lean ground beef, right? And you'd be surprised how many hundreds of calories we waste a day when we don't really understand what we're taking in. When we eat something as simple as a muffin and we don't realize it's got 30 to 40 more grams of fat, that's unnecessary because we're not eating a muffin to get all that fat, right? So it was really eye-opening for me to track my diet for a couple days. Now the apps make this so much easier. So Nutrition IX is one of my favorites right now. And it's just a food diary. And you can just plug that information in, and then you can compare it to ProPhysique macros, and you're gonna get a good idea. Now, if you wanna jump in and have a deadline, that's gonna be that next factor that really allows you to get there. I've never met anyone that says, I just wanna get a little bit leaner, I wanna look good for the beach, I wanna get shredded, and actually does it without a deadline. Why? Because when you don't have a deadline, you always have the opportunity to take people up on their vacations, their excursions. Someone comes in town, someone says, let's have a drink. You need to have that self-fulfilling desire to say no to things that are gonna set you off that path. And I'm not suggesting that getting shredded or getting ripped is for everybody, but I get a lot of these messages. And I feel like you guys are speaking to me because it was once me that was the person that said, I really wanna get leaner. I was obsessed with the gym. The gym was the easy part for me. I loved clanging and banging. I loved getting in the gym, hour and a half, 2 hours a day. Me and my buddies would go in there. We'd rep set after set. That to me was the easy part. The nutrition took me more than a decade to actually start paying attention to, okay? I've read a few nutrition books, even back then, but the idea of actually putting in the work to track seemed overwhelming. And I'm here to tell you that it's really not. It's intimidating initially, just like going to the gym the first time, but once you get in the routine of it, tracking your nutrition is so simple and it has such a profound impact on your physique. And this is why I got into coaching, because I felt like the missing component for a lot of people was the confidence to do what they needed to do. So if you'd like a free consultation, we'd love to help you there. If you'd like to join our 8-week Summer Sculpt Challenge that's coming up and get our diet plans and get our training plans that we provide and get the community support that we provide, it's $50. You can do that too. We also provide the opportunity for guided coaching for that 8 weeks. But the point of all of this is that for you to reach this goal, you have to do two things. You have to start being accountable to your nutrition. You have to start being accountable to your daily activity. Those two things are what's going to set you up on your caloric deficit. It would also help if you continued lifting weights like a beast, because you want to make sure you're continuing to keep and build muscle throughout that process. But the other thing is the deadline. Without a deadline, I'm sorry to say, the likelihood of these goals happening, you've got to be a kind of a very self-motivated person. And I've never met anyone who was completely shredded that wasn't getting ready for a photo shoot. At the very least, some type of event, shredding for the wedding, that's a popular one. People are getting married, they're going to get their picture taken, they want to look great at their wedding. That's a great one. You can do that. Bodybuilding's the same thing for me. And there are other physical activities and events. Heck, I've even had people want to diet for things like music conferences, reunions and things like this. So whatever that is, maybe you want to win our cash prize. I think we're giving out $25,000 for this summer sculpt. So, we do give cash prizes. That's a motivator. But I think what we find is that the people that win, they're more excited about the person they become through the challenge than they are specifically about winning some money. Because going through this process and learning how to set boundaries, make yourself a priority, and actually achieve a goal, it really influences the people around you, but it makes you feel more empowered and a better version of yourself. And that's something I say every time I do a bodybuilding show. I did one last year, and I always say when I go through that process of dieting down for a show, it kind of just reestablishes and reaffirms why I loved bodybuilding in the first place and why it was so valuable for me to do it. It's just made me a much more successful and happy person. So hopefully that addresses your question. I know I didn't actually give you a diet plan, but if you're really curious what I eat when I'm shredded, I have, if you type in my name and full day of eating, I've got multiple videos. Those meals and those calories and macros, of course, they're kind of specific to me, but it can give you some ideas on where to start. But the idea here is I want to help you guys work to these goals. It can be in the form of very specific things like diet plans and training plans, or it can be kind of in this mindset of like, how do we go from the person we are to the person we want to be? You've got to kind of set aside some time to put in the work to get there. All right. Hopefully this answers your question. Keep sending me these great questions on my Instagram, guys. I really enjoy answering them, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.